Hello and welcome back to the middle of the video. We were about to talk about some bullshit and here it is. Okay, so moving on to Cult. I'm going to ask myself the same questions that I asked you. Okay, Cult is about these three actresses playing themselves, and they're part of the idol culture in Japan, where they are sort of, I think it's more TV than movies, that they have this studio system and they're locked into contracts and they have to do these jobs. And they get told that they have to go investigate a haunted house. And the cult in the title is some neighbors next door to the haunted house that are trying to bring a demon to the house. There's the cult of the entertainment industry that's sent these people, even though they're very uncomfortable. And there's a religious group that keeps sending priests out to try to do battle with whatever's in the house, and it kills a couple of them. And then there's a third guy that's basically played for comedy. But the whole thing seems to be a comment on that exploitative nature of the entertainment industry, that these women are getting possessed by demons to various levels, and they are told that they have to go to work. And my favorite part of the movie is when the weakest of the women goes to quit her job and she goes to her agent and he just starts berating her about how she can't stop doing this job. But because she's been minorly possessed by this demon, she uses psychokinesis to pin him against the wall with a table. And I really like that scene. I like how it's that she's fighting back against this structure that she's working for. But I think what's appealing to me about Cult is how many women there are in the movie. And there's the three actresses, there's the two women living in the house, the next door neighbors. And like I said, I'm going to admit that Occult is probably a better movie, that I hadn't thought about that till tonight when we started talking about it, just because Occult does such a good job of being absolutely repellent. Like the actor that plays Eno is so good at being such a shithead that I just prefer this other mockumentary. But I would say that as far as the director's signature for this one, for Cult, it's Occult takes place in a city.
Yes.
And Cult is, I think they might be in a city, but the main action takes place in like this very quiet, very normal looking neighborhood where you wouldn't think. I know you pointed out, what did you say about the house? Like looking at the outside of the house and the inside of the house.
Oh, it's like the outside of the house is very old looking. It's just kind of reminds you of like the small. If you've watched any Japanese TV movie, whatever, or even anime, these older looking houses, but the inside of it was all fancy and kind of modern, and it was a real kind of a stark contrast there.
And that may be by design to show the normalcy of the neighborhood and then what's really going on inside the house. And there's a twist. There is an actual cult that's trying to bring about this demon, just like in Occult, but it's not really a cult in a cult. It's a guy.
Yeah.
But in Cult, it's a cult. A cult. I can't talk.
A lot of cults.
It's Cult and Occult sitting on a fence. Cult fell off, and who was left?
Right.
So stupid. But he has the signature of something going on in the house next door, which is the same thing that happens in Noroi at the beginning when there's a mother and daughter in a house. And the neighbors are making a sound like 1,000 babies crying. And then again in Cult, it's a mother and daughter living in a house with evil people next door. But Cult is seems to be on the surface played much more for comedy, but I thought that Occult, I thought that the director put himself in it to make himself look foolish, like that sort of self deprecating sense of humor.
I could see that. I could definitely see that.
Okay, so I've gotten off track. Like usual, I wanted to say, because I like to put these personal touches in, that they went to McDonald's a lot while they were planning their bombing in Occult.
And even before, I think their first real interview or whatever, like meeting with Koji and were at a McDonald's where he borrowed a 100 yen coin, which plays into the ending of the film as well.
But do you think they explicitly stated that they were at McDonald's in that movie?
I know it was pretty obvious. I think so. Like at the beginning, like not so much later on, but you see the rappers and you kind of see the cop and everything because the rapper flies off. Like that's the first miracle. Says that happens in front of Koji is that just a simple, and it's so small. Like you just think, oh, that's a coincidence until things get bigger and bigger, and then suddenly there's a big old ball of worms up in the sky, and you're looking at it, and birds are flying towards you, and you don't know what the hell's going on.
And there was a ball of worms in Cult also when they had their final confrontation in the house with the demon. The young girl's head turned into a bunch of worms.
Oh, that's true.
I think I wanted to talk about. This is something I return to over and over. As horror fans, we have to put up with a lot of shitty third acts in movies. Okay, first of all, you've written some screenplays and been involved in some film production. Why is it hard to end a movie?
It's like you build up. I don't know about anybody else because I usually have an ending in place when I start to write. But with writing, anybody that's ever written like that knows that your story can go very off to the left, to the right, anywhere, and you're just kind of along for the ride. I think you build up all these things and you build it up and you build it up, and I think a lot of writers or a lot of people, their weakness is just ending it like on a big note. Like, and they don't. They put all their big stuff towards the beginning, mainly towards the middle. You get something, and then it's just a poof.
So the ending of Occult, the very ending, the last scene that we see, it's ridiculous. Do you think it ruins the movie?
At one point I thought it did because I had hated that ending when I first saw it. Like I watched that movie, I was enthralled, and then that ending, and I'm just gonna go ahead and spoil it. Um, Koji gets out of prison, and he gets a camera and the 100 yen coin that Eno was carrying with him when he did the bombing. And it drops out of the sky. He's freaking out, and they look at the footage. It shows Eno right up to the explosion, and then you get this goofy kaleidoscope jellyfish head swimming around going, it's hell, it's hell. And it's so stupid. And then like his head detaches from his body in this weird Hausu kind of style and just flies away, and then it looks like somebody's Windows 98 screensaver for a moment, and then it ends.
And then Cult doesn't really have an ending, it just ends. But I am a fan of the ambiguous ending in a movie, that you can decide what happened. And that's the same thing that happened in Noroi, that you're, but in a much more artful way, you're left wondering what happened next.
I mean, when you can do, when it's done correctly, yeah, it can heighten and make you want more. I think an example for me would be like the first Hell House. It had a real weird ending to it, and I liked it, and it was kind of unexplained a little bit, and then they explained it in movie after movie with diminishing returns. So And there's a few other movies like that too. But Black Christmas is one that I think part of me wants to be mad because I don't know who the killer is, but the other part of me is like really like it's really creepy at the end because you know it's ending and you know something's really bad about to happen to that one girl at the end, but there's nothing you can do because you're leaving the scene.
And with Cult, it's the same. The people in the movie think that it's over, and it's obviously not over.
Yeah, and I think that's like his Koji's deepest like jump into the whole Lovecraftian because you don't know what this entity is. And the previous two movies, the first movie you've got Kagutaba, and it was like a small demon that was created, and then Occult. The entity is supposed to be Huroku, who is the Leech King or the Leech Boy. Um, and then this one, they don't even say its name, so it's presumably some, could be Cthulhu or any other kind of eldritch horror that's about to rise up and destroy Tokyo, much like Godzilla before him.
So why are you obsessed with found footage horror? We'll end on this note.
I thought really long and hard about this because I really never paid it much thought, but I just enjoyed watching it. But I think it's because there is a part of me that loves to see things that maybe I shouldn't be seeing. And this started like way like when I was a little kid and I would go into my local video store and you go in the little special darkly lit room where it had all the horror movies where most people had porn. We didn't have that in our towns. It was all horror movies. And that's when I first got my taste of Faces of Death, and it felt like you weren't supposed to be watching this. And then, that graduates. Yes, I've gone to those terrible sites like Rotten.com back in the day and stuff and watched that stuff. So I think with found footage, a really good one makes you think that you're looking into these people's lives at the worst possible moment for them and that you shouldn't be watching this, but you just can't turn away.
And we all thought in the 80s that Faces of Death were real.
Yes.
What I would have to say, my attraction to found footage is it's like a drug that I'm chasing. And it was August 1999, seeing the Blair Witch Project in a completely sold out theater in the middle of the night. And that feeling of dread. And I want to add, just as an aside, that nobody thought that movie was real. People will try to retcon that, but no one that I knew thought that it was real. We just thought it was a scary movie, and you didn't have all the answers to what was going on. But we had to go somewhere and chill out, smoke a joint at 2 a.m. after seeing that movie. We were so stressed out. Went home, went to bed, fell asleep. The air conditioner kicked on, and it scared me so much that I woke up out in the hall running away from the movie. And, the Hell House movies you brought up, the first one was pretty upsetting for me because we watched it the summer that I was on chemo and everything had this sort of gravitas. And Noroi, it should be more upsetting than it is, but it's just such a fun ride. But that's it. I'm always chasing the high of that first viewing of Blair Witch, and Cult and Occult don't quite get me there, but there's some reason that we rewatch those two movies every year.
Yeah, I just enjoy those. They're two of the best found footage movies I know, and there's many more. And there's plenty out there. There's way more bad, but there's a bunch of good found footage movies, not or mockumentaries, whatever you want to call it. Not only in Japan, but also around the world, America, and one that comes to mind, not American, but As Above, So Below, I believe.
Oh, wasn't it set in France?
It was in France, in the catacombs.
That was a good one.
I think I probably said the name of that wrong. Damn beer.
I knew what you were talking about.
But yeah, I love some found footage, and I think these two movies are actually closer to each other than they are to Noroi. In a way, it just feels like he moves on and just like upgrades his Eldritch horror lore or whatever his little cinematic universe is with each film that he came out with in that particular area. He's done many different types of films, like the Slit Mouth Woman and one of the Sadako versus one of the other ones.
Kayako.
Yes, all those. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to say that I can't remember what's up next for the channel, but after whatever I've got planned next, I'm going to talk about my favorite actual documentary, Sherman's March, because that came up in my mind when we were watching Occult, and I thought, this is taking off on those documentaries that start in one place and end up somewhere else. So I'm going to do something between now and then. I can't remember. And then I'm going to do Sherman's March. So if you get a chance to see Cult and Occult, they are both on YouTube, correct?
They are.
And I would recommend doing a double feature. So thanks again for joining me on the channel, Danny.
It was my pleasure.
All right, and have a good night.